All right, real quick, we're gonna hit up on a question asked about who and what. But not who and what. But about Donald Trump. He asked back in 1987 about what was gonna happen to you in Europe and Netherlands and whatnot. Uh, about the charges you have. You got 1,000 murder charges against you. It was presented more information on the investigation of 3,000 charges put against Donald Trump. Um, the investigation closed. I handled the investigation myself, so past 1,000. Went back through and rechecked all the information as well as the cases to see who did what. You couldn't be excused from such of being there or anything else. As far as what happened, it's simple. Donald Trump was accused by accusations um, that he had a group of people that worked for him. He put threats to employees. He inside the company had been soliciting things he shouldn't have been soliciting. Um, one of them mainly was sexual innuendos. That was proven and whatnot. This carries over from my last generation, and it does hold fact to you, Trump, that you do practice outside of your body. And what happens is when you do these practices and whatnot, and you screw with people mentally and maybe even sometimes physically, um, when a person is doing something else, because now the government of the Netherlands has actually backed me on the fact of putting these charges against you, which they have to anyway, but um, so 3,000 murders of disassembling a person. I went on the standpoint, as I always do, of disproving the numbers that they have, because I don't want extra numbers of other criminal crimes mixing in with anything else. The accusation went to a conviction at actually 2,898 murders and whatnot. It was also the accusation of you mistreating what you thought or you claimed to be who you were with, which is proven on a YouTube video, because I'm not in Europe right now. To that you made girls who, while employed in a company, walk around nude in the forest so you can make a sex video. Uh, so that video came in and whatnot, and since there was already 3,000 murders, um, it'll stand, but at the same time, um, I'm not going to add it to the list. 30,000 of your employees went to prison, and the reason they went to prison is because after knowing the fact of being messed with in a mental way, they did a little bit of time for what they did because some of them knew what they did. Donald Trump had 120 employees to actually keep, to monitor, not to keep, but to monitor, to erase keep, and doing what they were supposed to do. He failed to do this. As far as it being the accusation of it being held over from the last generation, that I can't hold it over legally from the last generation, yes, I can actually. The law states that at any time that you do a criminal crime at the end of a generation, or the knowing of looking forward into a person's life, or plotting or planning a murder streak, as some might call this, even though it's not a murder streak. It's more along the lines of plotting murder and knowing it, that you can be held accountable, even in the next generation, as long as you haven't been criminally charged with it. Your charges stand as it is at 3,000. Charges by association, 30,000 charges were filed against employees that you employed out of the 120,000 employees, because they had some type of involvement with this. That is too many employees in too many different companies, mainly governmental factories, to have. It also tells me within a period of 20 years, 3,000 people is a little bit too much, and getting murdered to where this should have been brought to my attention a lot sooner. A few police officers went to jail for knowing too much. When an investigation goes over that threshold of murder, that's where I step in. Even in the fact of being put out, and when I say put out, they're prepping me for pretty much, some have referenced it as DIE. It's not DIE, but they had to bring me back to solve a case. So in the sense of things, and everything doing what they're supposed to do, I'm a little off with hand gestures and speech, that's why. So that's the main reason. But the investigation went smoothly, soundly, and legally. So that's the main part that has to be almost perfect. In the event of this, the conviction of 3,000 murders, I mean, I'm not going to keep sitting here and say 3,000 murders to Trump, but Donald Trump. The Netherlands is requesting that Donald Trump show up and that he be imprisoned. I asked for an island for you to be put on to starve to death, because that's what happens to every murderer, every killer, every person that does manslaughter, everyone that takes a life by killing or murder or stuff like that. That's the law here. They don't like the law here of that being that. They don't even like Alcatraz. If you do not do these things in the reference of law, then thus this will be held against those accountable within the country of which the murderer, the killer, abides in. Okay? So Trump likes to point fingers at me. You can't quite point fingers because I have a ruling here by every country in the world, even including North Canada, USA, that I have immunity to this. And it cannot be overturned by new presentation of law, rules, ordinance, or that of a person obtaining a position to overthrow. It's been that way for over 10 to 20,000 years, as long as people have been alive. So good luck, because you ain't going to get it. Who requested all this? Well, you're standing on the soil of the country, which is normally foreign country. If you ever looked at those flags, the correct flags hanging, tends to tell you what state you're in and what needs to be done in that state. But it's territory, not state. State's a new word. So get used to saying territory. But, so as soon as Donald Trump or flies or puts himself on a ship and goes to the Netherlands, the time will start for those 3,000 murders. This is not a leader position that you were in the sense of a cop, a police. Let's see how you guys reference, because of the law, not the law changing, but the people wanting the law to change a certain way, even though it hasn't changed at all. Certain things. So they're not FBI, they're not CIA, they're not anything like that. You're not anything like that. So in the stance that of who employed who, it wasn't an umbrella company or factory of anything of that sort. It wasn't an undercover secret agency or nothing like that. So, after 110 years of an investigation, and technically there's 2 investigations by paperwork, their investigation and the one I prepped. So there's over 1,000 documents that prove this, including pictures. So there is no way of getting out of this. Now, I can't force you to go to Alcatraz. I can't really force you to go to the Netherlands right now. When I go back over, I'll come over and pick you up and throw you in. But if you just do it yourself, you'd be doing me a pretty big favor right now. So, I mean, I could force you to do it right now. But anyway, it's also been proven legally in the United States, as it's referred to, because the United States was not a rename of a country for the better of the country. It was a made-up thing by that of the Union. And the Union ain't a government, okay? The Union referred to the military. The military has no power or authority over a person. They must protect a person at all costs. Okay, when I tell the Union, or not the Union, but yeah, actually the Union, if I tell the United States military to hop on their one leg for 2 minutes, they'll do it, because I've done it before to them. So that should end all those questions. As far as how much can I tell the military what to do? Yeah, I can tell the military here, which is USAF, which stands for European State Air Force. It's not the United States Air Force. So you'll see that along the lines of the different abbreviations. But that's the things that they're not telling you in the United States, as they should have been telling you why you shouldn't be going against Europe. Because when you go against Europe, you're going against every country over in Europe, and this also includes Russia as well. As far as the Arctic region, it's still off limits to a certain line, so stay out of the North and South Arctic, because there is no protection or person. All hidden and abandoned buildings are off limits to everyone. A lot of travelers may go through and find an abandoned building, fall asleep, which is not a problem. As far as wrecking ball and destroying here, a lot of people have a lot to answer for. So, a lot of criminal actions, because they weren't ordered to be torn down, certain ones. Alright, that's it. Bye.